Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. We are here for our Administrative Matters meeting. I call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning and welcome, everyone. I am Kristen Stevens. I'm the Chair Pro Tem, and I'll be running meetings while Commissioner Kafalis is gone. But with me on the dais is Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally. On the other side, we have from the Clerk's Office, Deirdre O'Neill. We have our County Manager, Lorenda Volker. And from our office, we have Tom Clayton and Sarah Kane helping us out today. So we got those introductions done, and we will begin with public comment. We didn't have anyone signed up for public comment, and Sarah says we don't have anyone on the phone, but I wanted to open it up to the audience to see if there's public comment. You would have 3 minutes to speak. I think it's mostly visitors and staff today, but all right. Well, then we will close public comment and just want to remind folks that they can always send us emails and come for public comment or give us a phone call if they have issues that they're concerned about. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes. And Commissioner Shattuck McNally, would you make a motion, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair Pro Tem. I move to approve the minutes for the week of June 4th, 2024.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 2-0. And we will move to Sarah Kane for our upcoming schedule review.
This is the Commissioner's schedule for June 17th through the 22nd, 2024. On Monday, June 17th, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there will be a work session with Mark Faffinger, Support Services Director, regarding internal services in the hearing room on the first floor. From 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., there will be an elected officials lunch at the Stakeout Saloon at 152 West Mountain Avenue, Fort Collins. From 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., there will be a work session with Leslie Ellis, Director of Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources, in the hearing room on the first floor. On Tuesday, June 18th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., there will be an Administrative Matters meeting in the hearing room on the first floor. From 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may attend the Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting at 2307 Midpoint Drive in Fort Collins. From 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m., there will be administrative direction to county management in the Sprague Lake Conference Room on the second floor. From 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may attend the Rodeo Board meeting. It's a hybrid meeting in person. It'll be at the First National Bank Building at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland, or virtually via Zoom. On Wednesday, June 19th, county offices will be closed in observance of the Juneteenth holiday. On Thursday, June 20th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may attend the Colorado Municipal League Annual Conference at the Embassy Suites Loveland at 4705 Clydesdale Parkway in Loveland. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual National Association of Counties Rural Action Caucus meeting. From 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., Commissioner Stevens will host a virtual listen session for the Fort Collins community. Zoom link will be provided prior to the meeting. From 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may participate in the virtual North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization Finance Committee meeting. From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will attend the Coalition for the Poudre River Watershed second annual Take Me to the River fundraiser at the Hillside Vineyard and Event Center at 3924 Brigham Hill Road in Fort Collins. On Friday, June 21st, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., Commissioner Stevens may participate in the Middle Income Housing Authority Board meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it'll be at the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade at 1600 Broadway, number 2500 in Denver, or virtually via Zoom. And on Saturday, June 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will host story time at the Larimer County Farmers Market at 200 West Oak Street in Fort Collins.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, do you have any corrections?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. Sarah, on the 13th, I don't know, maybe you did mention this, Commissioner Stevens and I will be together at the Teen Activity Center across the street for the 1-year anniversary celebration.
Which day was that?
Was that the? Oh, you're right. I'm looking at the wrong week. I apologize. Okay, you're right. And then one other thing that I'm attending, and I'm not sure if Commissioner Stevens will jump on. I will be joining at the end on the 20th. I apologize. I've had the wrong day. Is the CCAT County Review Authority interim meeting number 1, and I wasn't sure if Commissioner Stevens was thinking about that, but I thought we should put that on the calendar. That is June 20th at 11 a.m. And then also, I'm going to stop by, I think Commissioner Stevens as well, before I head to the Coalition for Poudre Watershed event. I'm going to the Fort Collins Chamber State of Business out at 4 to 5, and that is at the Beer Garden at Anheuser-Busch from 4 to 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So I just, for the, let's see, Thursday, June 20th, the virtual listening session I'll have, while it says it's for the Fort Collins community, it's technically for everyone. So I don't want to exclude anyone from the community. And I know it's sometimes easier for people in some more the rural areas to be online if they have good, service. So that's a listening session open to everyone. And then Commissioner Shattuck McNally is right on that same Thursday from 4 to 6. It's the State of Business Chamber event at the Beer Gardens. I will be at that event. And then I've added the Church World Services Cultural Fest that I'll be attending on Saturday. Probably, I think it starts at noon, so I can get you the times for that too.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
I think also maybe we should just put on the calendar. We don't have the exact location, but we're both invited to the Investing in Rural America Prosperity event on June 17th at 10 a.m. So that probably will change our work session. And also, I'll probably have to attend rurally the epidemiology to kind of at the end. So I'll be trying to listen into that, but we'll both be at the Investing in American Rural Prosperity event. Thank you.
That's correct, Commissioners, and we will go ahead and reschedule that work session with support services for another day.
Thank you.
And I don't think we have an address. It's in Fort Collins. We just don't know at this time when.
And for the public, that's an event that the Secretary of Agriculture will be attending to award grant dollars to the Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association for some of the work they're doing on renewable energy, so specifically solar. So very exciting for them to get that grant and for our rural communities to be also on board with alternative energy. So really should be a great event. All right, so I think that is it.
Yeah.
We're good. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. I'll read through the consent agenda, and always an exciting read. So our first item on the consent agenda is abatements, and we have 4 petitions for abatement or refund of taxes for various parties. Our next items are agreements. The first agreement is a bid number B2403 PN 9089 contract award with Larimer County and Colson Excavating Company. That's an engineering project which is for roughly $3 million. We have an agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation. It's a grant amendment for aquatic nuisance species station at Satanka Bay. In 2022, we received a $150,000 grant from the Bureau of Reclamation towards the aquatic nuisance species project at Horsetooth. And due to unexpected delays, we requested an extension. So we have an extension to that project. The third agreement is a State of Colorado contract with the Colorado Department of Safety and Division of Criminal Justice This is a contract that exists so local corrections board can subcontract with local facilities for the purpose of rendering residential, non-residential, and specialized services to offenders. And the total dollar amount is $7.4 million. The next item is Poudre Valley Rural Electric Fiber Right of Use Agreement. This is an amendment to our indefeasible right of use between Larimer County and Poudre Valley Rural Electric for 72 dark fiber optic cable strands to serve middle mile access to the Risk Canyon area of Larimer County from Bellevue to Buckhorn. This IRU supports our work on capital projects, funds grant for the Risk Canyon area, and reduces the project costs by partnering with PVREA. Total dollar amount is $600,000. This is great because this will help us get broadband up to some of our rural areas, including Risk Canyon, where they have very poor internet services. The next agreement is an intergovernmental agreement between Boulder County and Larimer County for the licensing of the LOIS software developed by Larimer County. And Larimer County will also assist Boulder with the development, orientation, and training their staff on this. So this is a great project because local governments don't compete. We actually share resources, and this is, kudos to our IT team who are creating software that's really better than almost anything that you can get on the market. And so Boulder County was very excited to be a participant in sharing this software. And so the total dollar amount for the IGA is $500,000 plus IT staff time. The next item is a modernization proposal, and this agreement provides for the modernization of elevator equipment at the Larimer County Jail. Important to have functioning elevators. Total dollar amount is $341,649. And then the final agreement is a letter terminating the 2009 intergovernmental agreement for emergency management of disasters related to broad-ranging public health emergency incidents. Since 2009, Larimer County has an Office of Emergency Management and a robust Emergency Operations Center. The City of Fort Collins and City of Loveland have also changed their emergency management processes significantly since 2009, and therefore the IGA is no longer valid, and so it may cause confusion if it remains in place. So that is it for agreements. We move on to appointments. We have a recommended midterm appointment to the Terry Shores Public Improvement District, appointing Al Kunast to a midterm appointment with a term ending in November 2027, and a recommended midterm appointment to the Kitchell General Improvement District, Richard Cape, will serve until November 30th, 2026. So thank you for stepping up to serve on these boards. Under miscellaneous items, we have three stipulations as to tax year 2023 value for various entities. We have changes to our fourth item is our fifth actually, is our changes to our flood review board bylaws. Larimer County made changes to the flood review board jurisdiction in 2021, removing quasi-judicial designation and reclassifying the board as an advisory board. And so updates were needed in the bylaws for that. And then the final item under this topic is certification. For the county and Embassy Suites signed a lease in 2007, which allows a hotel to operate on county-owned property at the ranch. Embassy Suites is refinancing some of its debt, and so the certification form provides verification in this situation. We have two policies on the agenda: family and medical leave policy. With regard to the payroll system and leave balances with an employee who is on Family Medical Leave Act. And then the second policy, which is Human Resources Policy and Procedure, that updates the benefits policy so it aligns to that Family Medical Leave policy. We have two resolutions, and that's our last item on our consent agenda. The first one is findings and resolution approving the Lemon Family Trust Conservation Development. This is a request to subdivide a 241-acre parcel zoned rural residential 2 into 45 residential lots measuring approximately 2 acres. And we held that hearing on March 25th, 2024. And the final item is the findings and resolutions approving the Walsh Planned Land Division preliminary plat and rezoning to planned development. And this was a request to divide a 9.89 acre parcel into 24 residential lots. And the public hearing on this matter was held on July 10th, 2023. So those are all the items on the consent agenda. I'll ask Commissioner Shattuck McNally, do you want to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right. Then I would ask you for a motion, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda for June 11th, 2024.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 2-0. Next item is Commissioner's guests. Do we have any guests today?
Not today, thank you.
I don't have any guests either, so we will move on to our first discussion item, which is a resolution authorizing the assignment to Housing Catalyst of a private activity bond allocation from Larimer County. And I believe Aaliyah Rodriguez will be coming up to speak on this item. Welcome, Aaliyah.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Aaliyah Rodriguez, and I'm the Housing Stability Program Manager. Today's resolution is to authorize the assignment of just over $6.5 million in Larimer County private activity bonds to Housing Catalyst. As a reminder to the public and to the board, private activity bonds are not a cash award. They're essentially special loans given to local governments to be allocated and eventually sold to investors to help build schools, hospitals, or affordable housing. Larimer County chooses to focus all of its private activity bonds to support affordable housing. Thank you to the board for continuing to prioritize this vital need in our community. Through this focus, private activity bonds are used to help finance the construction, acquisition, or rehabilitation of rental properties for households below 60% area median income. So for a family of 4 in Larimer County, that means families earning below $71,000 annually. Larimer County conducts a competitive process to award these bonds to future projects. It begins with an application that's due on March 1st each year, and then those applications are reviewed by our evaluation committee. That committee is comprised of our finance director, human services director, and the workforce development director, or their designees. Thank you to the committee for their work on this year. We received 2 applications for the 2024 allocation. One was incomplete and had to be returned. The committee has recommended to the board that the full award be allocated to Housing Catalyst to be used for their current affordable housing pipeline projects. So at this time, can you go back to the beginning? I'm going to call up Julie Bruin, Chief Executive Officer, and Kristen Fritz, Chief Real Estate Officer of Housing Catalyst, to discuss the impact of Larimer County's private activity bonds and how these bonds is going to be used in the future.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Welcome, Julie and Kristen. We spoke to you not too long ago about a similar topic, but we're happy to
Yes.
actually have the award this morning, so.
Yes, good
Welcome.
morning. Thank you for having us and good to be back. I'm Kristen Fritz, Chief Real Estate Officer, and with me is Julie Bruin, our Chief Executive Officer. So we want to thank you for the recommendation of private activity bond allocation. We can talk a little bit about, and each year we appreciate this opportunity to come to you and share the ways that we have been able to utilize this tool, which has been critical to our ability to deliver affordable housing into the community. So next slide. So Housing Catalyst, our mission is to create vibrant, sustainable communities throughout Northern Colorado. Next slide. We are an experienced developer. We have many award-winning communities that you all are familiar with. Next slide. So we wanted to share a little bit of the history, since it has now been just over 10 years that we have been receiving private activity bond allocations from Larimer County, and we have been the recipient of just under $37 million in bond capacity, and that includes the 2024 allocation of $6.5 million that is being recommended today. So over the last 10 years, we thought we could show some of the projects that we have been able to deliver with the utilization of this private activity bond. And I do want to just take a minute about what private activity bond allocation is, since it's somewhat complicated and unclear, just as everything with affordable housing financing. But private activity bond is not actually a direct funding source. The allocation is actually a bonding capacity that allows us to issue tax-exempt bonds to finance our debt. So debt is one of the tools that we utilize to finance affordable housing. And bond capacity is basically a limited amount by jurisdiction that allows you to issue tax-exempt bonds. Next slide. So going back to 2015, our Village on Plum, this was a 95-unit tax credit renovation project, and we utilized $8.75 million from Larimer County on this project. Next slide. Our Village on Redwood in 2017. This was a 72-unit new construction development, and we used a combination of bonds from Larimer County and the City of Fort Collins for a total of $12 million. And our Village on Shields, this was completed in 2018. This was an acquisition and renovation project, a large preservation effort for 256 units. At the time, it was one of the biggest 4% tax credit renovation projects in state history at the time. Very large scale, and it utilized $35 million in private activity bond capacity. And our Village on Horsetooth was another 4% tax credit project, was new construction of 96 units that included $19 million of private activity bond. And that was a project that was developed on the City of Fort Collins' first land bank property. That was the first time that they deployed a piece of their property and selected Housing Catalyst to be the developer of that new construction project. Next slide. And our Oak 140, a more recent project that was completed, 79 units. And you can see these numbers start creeping up over the years as the cost of construction has increased. And so that was $19.3 million in private activity bonds utilized for our Oak 140 project. That was completed in 2023. And our Impala redevelopment. This is a project that is currently under construction. It includes 86 units. It will be completed next year, and we are using $19.5 million in private activity bonds for that development. And this is actually a current snapshot of the construction activity going on at our Village on Impala project. Some very exciting progress happening out there. Just adjacent to Poudre High School was a former public housing site that we are able to keep in our portfolio and transition into a much more beautiful and welcoming community. So over the last 10 years, the private activity bond capacity has supported the development and preservation of over 850 units of affordable housing. And in 2024, the $6.5 million that is being allocated will help support 140 new units at our Village on Eastbrook project, as well as our Remington parking lot project. And it will kind of go into our pool of private activity bonds in combination with the award that we are receiving from the City of Fort Collins. We can also keep stock because, as we know, it takes many years of private activity bond, especially nowadays, to get to the amount that is needed for a single project. And you have 3 years to utilize the bonds that are awarded. So next slide. So our Village on Eastbrook project, this is a project that we received the first ever allocation of Prop 123 land banking funds. So we were able to acquire the site utilizing Prop 123 money, and we will then develop the site utilizing 4% tax credits, which require those private activity bonds. The total development cost is estimated at $32 million, which means there will be $17 million in private activity bond needed for that project. And it will produce 73 new units ranging from 30 to 80% AMI, and we hope to start construction on this development next year in 2025. Next slide. Here are some of the renderings of our Village on Eastbrook. Beautiful building designed by a market rate developer. We actually acquired the site along with the plans. It was designed by an architect, a local architect that we have used, so perfect acquisition for us, and we're really excited to be able to build this building. And then our Remington parking lot development. This is a site that is adjacent to our Oak 140 property, also in downtown. It is owned by the city of Fort Collins, and they are wanting to see it developed as additional affordable housing in our downtown. And this will be a project that we are estimating to be 70 to 100 new units of affordable housing. Currently estimated to be $35 million total development cost, and will need around $19 million in private activity bond. That will be slightly behind our Village on Eastbrook project. We'll probably get started in 2026 and be open for business in 2028. And in terms of utilizing those private activity bonds, it is the date of closing in terms of the expiration of those bonds. So when we start construction and close the financing is when those bonds then get used and converted into a loan. So thank you for your ongoing support for Housing Catalyst and our affordable housing project. Private activity bond is very limited around the state. We're very lucky to have the ability to utilize it from Larimer County and the city of Fort Collins to do this very important work.
Thank you, Kristen. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay,
well,
wonderful.
I didn't until I stood here and listened to Kristen and thought about the 25 years I've been doing this work in Fort Collins, 30 years total. And it is really, really fun, or get so nerdy about this, to be able to talk with you, our local officials. I was communicating with a peer in Michigan yesterday who said no matter how many times he tries to explain the complexity of these deals to his local officials, they just don't get it. And that has been the case historically with county commissioners. And that's why it's so much fun when I come here now, because you all have made the commitment to understand the complexity, nuances of the economy, the interest rates, the affordable housing tools, and how we put these deals together. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for that comment. And, I have to say, when I first became commissioner, but even before, trying to learn about, everyone asked, doesn't the Larimer County have a housing authority? And I was learning about all that, and then learning that, how we have partnered with Housing Catalyst, and how this works. It took a little understanding, and Julie and all of you have been really open to sharing and talking with us. And it is complex, but it's just amazing what the work we can do together. I call it the Larimer way. You've heard me say it before, but we see it with natural disasters, with the fentanyl crisis, with behavioral health, with and now with housing. And this is not a crisis or an issue that we can solve alone. But I'm just trying not to jump down my seat, because I feel like this is really a great example of what we can do together. And it's not only the development, but the preservation. And that's the one that I really was excited to hear and see, because we also have been working on other projects trying to preserve mobile home parks and other naturally occurring affordable housing. And it's, everyone says, this is going to be such a tough thing, but you have put your heads down and just focused on the work, and then showing this it takes a while, and showing this story. I just appreciate you doing that today, because I think it shows that this is complex work, but when we just put our heads down and work together, and Aaliyah Rodriguez from our department partnering with you, and kind of this commitment from all of us and the city of Fort Collins, there's a lot of work to be done. So first, just thank you for your passion and your commitment, your dedication to housing. And we could all talk about why this is important. We all know this is health, safety, welfare, economic prosperity. I mean, it's all of the things. And just really appreciate just how dedicated you guys are, because this is complex, but your history and all these buildings show your success and how this works. It can work well. So my question is, first, did you say, I want to clarify, you said we're the first county or project in the state to get the Prop 123 funds? Is that what you stated?
So the first ever round of funding from Prop 123 for Land Bank was open last year. They made it available and invited applications. It was a highly competitive round of applications, and we received one of those. We submitted an application and we received an award. It was about subscribed about 3-1. So 1 in 3 projects was awarded those funds, and we were successful. But that was the first time that those Prop 123 Land Bank funds were made available.
So my next question is, because, Prop 123 is a great opportunity and tool, but it is also complex. So there is that percentage that we have to qualify for to stay eligible to apply. So will we all get credit because we're putting all this money in together? Will we all get credit for that 3%, or does this only go to one agency? I know that I'm not probably asking a tough question, but maybe Aaliyah can.
No, I
I'm
know
just
she's
curious
been
because I
working
think
on
this
that.
is really important, because we've had those conversations, and now seeing that actually we're using it, this is great. And I want to be able to keep going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So, in partnership with our community development department, Rebecca, our director, we applied for technical assistance funds to work with our local surrounding municipalities, because what we need to have in place is intergovernmental agreements. So any project that the county contributes to that may be in City of Fort Collins or City of Loveland, we would get a portion of those units towards our 3%.
Okay.
So we just have to get those in place in order to figure out the percentages. We also want to ensure that, we're all successful in this effort.
Right.
So,
Thank you for that. I agree. We want to share the credit, literally, because, these are big projects, but for us to be able to continue to collaborate and partner, we have to, it's like a win-win for everyone. So I appreciate that. And are there other opportunities that are in your pipeline? Because I like this preservation of affordable housing, and maybe instead of the sprawl, we're kind of coming back like the Remington project and looking to enhance or preserve areas that are close to downtown and businesses and transportation, which is kind of what we've all been looking at the last few years at a state legislator level, high level. And I know Leah's been looking at as all too, looking to help us find what projects we should be partnering with. Is there more in the queue, I guess, too?
Right. So the last time we were here, we got to share the 5-year long-term pipeline for the housing authorities and nonprofits in Larimer County. Maybe the next time we meet, we can talk about how we identify deals, how we look at site location, how Estes Park and Loveland Housing Authorities do the same. And to Aaliyah's point, absolutely, we want to figure out how to maximize those Prop 123 funds and make sure we don't leave anything on the table, whether it be the municipalities or the countywide level.
Thank you for answering my questions. Excited and very proud and very supportive of our partnership and allocating these funds to you all. You guys are fantastic and doing great work. And thank you, Aaliyah, for the work that you do to nurture these partnerships, and just really grateful you're all here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair
Commissioner.
Pro Tem.
So I want to thank you too. Thank you for highlighting all the projects, because I think it's really important for folks to see. I always light up when I see the Village on Shields, because I think I've mentioned before, but as a young mom, I lived in a young single mom. I lived in the Villages on Shields when I was first starting my career, and it was a great space, and I'm glad it's been renovated and kept in kept as affordable housing property because that's so crucial.
Now has air conditioning.
Oh, yeah, see, I think I might have told that story too. I did not have air conditioning, so
Yes.
we did have a pool though.
At washers and dryers.
Well, oh, I didn't have a washer and dryer, but so good. I'm glad that other people have benefited from some improvements there. But yeah, these are great projects. I just have a few questions. So we talked about this last time, but public or private activity bonds. We're needing more and more of those dollars to be able to complete the projects. Projects are getting more expensive. So, do you? I mean, we also talked about how we lobby our legislators to try to get more private activity bonds to be able to give out. And I mean, do you see a point at which it becomes unfeasible to do these projects without more dollars available? Because it looks like it's roughly half, maybe a little more than half of the project needs to be financed in that way.
Currently, the 4% tax, if you utilize 4% federal tax credits that are administered by CHFA, you are required that 50% of your construction loan debt amount be financed with tax-exempt private activity bond. And so that it used to be that for all sorts of reasons, because costs weren't as high, interest rates weren't as high, you didn't need as much private activity bond, and it really was not an issue in the state. That
Sure.
requirement was no problem to meet, and now just because debt is necessary and the rates are high and the costs are high, the amount that you need per project has gone up so much, and there's just not enough, and it is absolutely limiting the number of units that can be delivered statewide. That's already happening.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that, there's different advocacy efforts to help with this issue. And one of the ones I talked about last time was to reduce that percentage requirement down to 25%. That wasn't successful this year, but I think that will keep coming back. That would be able to kind of stretch the use of the 4% tax credit more. But in terms of increasing the amount that's available, I'm not sure what option is there.
Yeah, I think that's right, Kristen. So I actually today have been participating in the Bipartisan Policy Center's Housing Supply Summit, and I'm going to jump back on when we're done here. I think that's right. I think in 2025 we do have an opportunity to do some changes to the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program that could increase the number of units we can add to the supply. We have not heard support for increasing the private activity bond cap that is allocated to states. I think we have better luck at the tax credit program. We thought we would get those policy changes done this year until the child tax credit was added to the low-income housing tax credit reform. In 2025, a lot of the Trump administration's tax benefits burn off, and we think that is really the time when these kinds of programs will be possible to move through the legislature. And you might remember that the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Programs, Section 42 of the IRS regs, was created during the Reagan administration and has had bipartisan support since. It's just too bad in some ways we did not get reform this year. It may be better to get even more sweeping reform in 2025. But really, we think it'll be on the tax credit program. Oh, one more thing, as you follow those kinds of national policy issues, we're hoping that the tax credit reform can include making those units permanently affordable. Right now, there are possibilities for developers to get out and sell the market at certain points in time. And so permanent affordability for the low-income housing tax credit program would be something else that we're advocating for.
Great. Well, I would just, let us know how we can help, if that's writing a letter or, talking to people and maybe even giving us some talking points, because this is your area of expertise and we want to speak.
You have before. You actually signed on to a letter for tax credit reform, so we'll keep that in front of you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And then one question that I had about the villages on Impala project. So there were existing housing there. That's so are the people that live there going to be moving into the new housing? And how many more net units do we have? And where are those people living while that gets built.
Yes, so Impala is a complicated project. So there is both a new construction and a renovation project that are going on together. The renovation project is 24 units, it's 12 duplexes, and those are kind of a rolling renovation. So folks are moving out temporarily into a hotel, which we do. We have a lot of experience doing temporary relocations. We work with folks who work with our property management team and our resident services team. So folks move out temporarily while their unit is being renovated, and then they are able to move back into their newly renovated unit. So that's the renovation piece. The public housing piece that used to be 13 single-family homes of public housing, those residents received new vouchers as part of our Section 18 approval from HUD to move away from the public housing program. So all of those tenants received full relocation benefit package in addition to a tenant replacement voucher. And those tenants were then supported in a relocation out of those homes. We then demolished the single family home site, those 13 units, and are building 60 units on the site of where those 13 homes used to be. So the difference in terms of net new units is from 60 to minus 13, which I think is 47. So there's 47 net units, but those duplexes that we are renovating, those were actually unrestricted, could technically have been market rate housing that we placed a new affordability restriction. So those are now kind of getting added to the affordable housing inventory, those 24 units as well.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. So those are being renovated, some got, okay. So everybody's taking care. I mean, I assumed that was the case, but it's just good to kind of know. And so is there a multi-family building there too, in addition to those duplexes then? Is that what the
Yeah, so there's a series of multifamily
series
buildings.
Okay.
The 60 units are being built in 3 buildings and includes a new clubhouse, a very large amenity area. It's being built in the LMN zone district, so it's limited to 12 units per acre, which means you end up with a lot of open space and space that there's a basketball court and a community clubhouse and a lot of new amenities that did not previously exist on the site.
With that zoning, I mean, do you get any, can you increase the density? You couldn't increase the density in that, or the city?
12 units per acre includes the affordable density bonus, at least under the old code. Under the new code, density is calculated differently, and you're constrained by the site more than you are by a units per acre cap when it comes to affordable, which is a great improvement in our
It is,
opinion.
but it's not going into effect, or is it going into effect soon?
Yes,
Yes.
that is in effect now. However, the Impala project was under the old
Was
code.
already underway. Okay.
I think for neighborhood compatibility, it would have looked similar. I don't think
Yeah.
we would have pushed density much more on that site.
There are probably sites that exist that you could have pushed density more and weren't able to. So the new code should help with those kind of situations.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I think that's all the questions I have. So Commissioner, any other further questions or comments before we go on?
Just really pleased and thank you for bringing this all forward. It's really great. I'm glad the public can to listen in and learn about this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's what we hear from our constituents almost the most, regardless of where we are. You know, even people who own homes have children that might not be able to afford homes, or friends and neighbors and people that they work with that are struggling with housing costs. So, I mean, we hear it all the time. So the work that you're doing is crucial to, making our community a better place to live for everyone and a more welcoming community. So I'm very grateful for the work. And Aaliyah, thank you for your leadership at the county level. So I will ask Commissioner Shattuck McNally, would you make a motion for the signing?
Yes, I would be very honored and excited to do so, Madam Chair Pro Tem. I move to approve the resolution authorizing assignment to Housing Catalyst of a private activity bond allocation of Larimer County.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 2-0. Congratulations. Thanks for coming. All right. So we have one more item on our discussion items, and that is proclaiming June 2024 as Family Reunification Month. And Angela Mead is, oh yeah, there's Angela. who's kind of in the back row. And I'll let Angela talk about this proclamation, and we'll make some comments, and we'll probably take a photo and all that good stuff. So welcome, Angela.
Good morning. It's nice to see you. I'm Angela Mee, Deputy Division Manager with Child, Youth, and Family Services with the Larimer County Department of Human Services. I'm here today to present to you the proclamation for National Family Reunification Month. Prior to presenting the proclamation, I just wanted to share a few comments with you about the importance of family reunification and how that is what we're doing in Larimer County to make that a reality. The top priority of child welfare is ensuring the safety and well-being of children. Helping families to heal and reunify is also a major goal of our department. Child welfare exists to keep children safe, not as a punitive system, but as an effort to provide temporary assistance, support, resources, and treatment for families. It is predicated on the belief that parents love their children. They can make necessary changes, they can heal from their own trauma, and they can build healthier relationships with their children. Not every case in child welfare is horrific, as it can sometimes be sensationalized by the media. In reality, most cases of child maltreatment stem from neglect. Neglect is rarely malicious, but it's more situational. Poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse, and mental illness can be some of the precursors that lead to child neglect. Most parents involved in the child welfare system are not bad people. They're people with limited capacity, support, or resources, and who have made some poor decisions and are struggling to keep their children safe. Many cases are the result of a parent's inability to cope with a crisis that they are faced with. Intervention is needed to keep children safe when parents lose control in a stressful situation and children are placed in harm's way. Parents can make grave mistakes and should be given the opportunity to learn, improve parenting skills, and strengthen relationships with their children. Most parents make necessary changes to repair the harm done. They acquire healthy coping skills and they can strengthen the relationships with their children. In some situations, parents will try, they'll have missteps or fall short because they're having difficulty overcoming the challenges that cause their child to be placed out of the home. There are others who, for a variety of reasons, will not reunify with their children because they're not able to provide a safe and loving home. In those circumstances, it's important to create other viable permanency options for the children in care. Given the right circumstances and support, most parents often make their necessary changes in their life to become a positive influence in the lives of their children. While it can be easy to condemn parents for making choices that result in removing their children, offering empathy, encouragement, support can pave the way to make the necessary changes to enable them to become the parent they want to be and the parent that their children need. All the efforts made to support reunification are essential. Significant research has shown that reuniting families is a fundamental component of a child's well-being. A critical factor of a child's well-being is ensuring that every effort is made to reduce the impact of trauma. Developmental scientists have studied and documented that separating a child from their parents results in negative consequences, which causes distress, and it can have long-term impacts concerning their mental health. I wanted to share just a few comments with you about the efforts that are being made in Larimer County to make reunification a reality. In the calendar year 2023, 58 children were reunited with their family. There are multiple factors that had contributed to the successful reunification. As we recognize the importance of National Reunification Month, it's important to recognize those efforts that make reunification a reality. Supporting reunification is an enormous emotional and logistical commitment that's made by caseworkers, family members, foster and kinship care providers, treatment professionals, advocates, representatives from human service agencies, and the courts in some cases. I wanted to name just a few examples of what we're actually doing in Larimer County that's contributing to our reunification efforts. First and foremost, when child welfare becomes involved with a family, and we're very concerned about safety and risk, we want to do everything possible to support families and prevent the separation of children and parents when it can be done so safely. We have about 1,464 kids in calendar year 2023 that we were involved with. 1,073 of those children did not have a removal. And I think it's important to note that. Sometimes with our involvement with families, we make a determination that court involvement is necessary. And the only time that we involve the courts is when we feel that the added structure and support is necessary to ensure the safety of children. In 2023, we had 107 court filings. When separation is necessary, placement with family is a top priority of our department, and we make every effort to identify and access family placement options as an opportunity for children. In state fiscal year 2024, the average daily placement with kin were 80 kids when the kin provider retained custody, and 92 kids in kinship care when the department retained custody. Foster care sometimes is necessary, and we only do that when kinship cannot be arranged. If children are placed in foster care, it works best for them when the foster family themselves supports the biological family to achieve reunification. Those relationships and partnerships are incredibly important in terms of the best interest of the child. Keeping children and youth out of congregate care by ensuring that they're placed in a family-like setting in our own community, or that they can remain home with community-based support and wraparound services. Community partnerships are essential to sustain this effort. Partnering with families to make crucial decisions about safety, support, treatment, and permanency is very important. In 2023, our department held 1,409 facilitated family meetings and 255 permanency roundtables. So permanency roundtables are those meetings that we have with professionals involved with the family and the family to plan for the child's permanency. One of the permanency goals is, and the primary one, is reunification. So a lot of effort is put forth to try and achieve that with families and children. Community partnerships are vital in our efforts to achieve reunification. Partnerships to help leverage sustainable resources is essential. This is important given the limitations of our funding allocation, and because these resources help to sustain the change with the family and their success long beyond the department's involvement. Currently, we have many partnerships that I just would like to highlight because they play an essential and invaluable role in our efforts around reunification. The first one I'd like to talk about is the Larimer County Interagency Oversight Group. This is representative of people that are involved with multiple systems that interface with our families. They make very important decisions concerning programming and funding allocation in our community. Summit Stone Health Partners, they're our primary treatment provider for mental health and substance abuse treatment. Our core service providers, they provide a continuum of treatment, advocacy, and support for our families. In 2023, we had 57 individual core service providers that we partnered and contracted with to provide services to families. Our family assessment and planning team. This is a great example of a multidisciplinary cross-system team that partners with families to address the needs of kids that are at high risk for congregate care. They work hard, very hard, to plan with families to address community-based resources and treatment needs. Our best practice court and family treatment court is addressing the court system and how best to navigate all the legal processes that impact families that are in court involved. Our department also partners with adult and juvenile probation services, so there's better coordination between the two systems when the family is involved both in the criminal justice system and our civil court system. the Resilience Practice Group. This is a community-based team that encourages the utilization of trauma-informed approaches for families involved in the child welfare system. And we also work very hard to support the needs of our workforce, who are doing very, very important work with our families. Strong partnerships with 2 community life centers to address the support needs of families where there's risk to those families of becoming involved with the child welfare system because of the adversities that they're facing. Partnership with Foothills Gateway to address the service needs of children and youth with developmental disabilities. And then we have our partnership with Rocky Mountain Health Plans, which is the RAY, and we're partnering with them to address the behavioral and health needs of children and youth in our community. And then partnership with the Larimer County Detention Center, and this was to strengthen our efforts to ensure incarcerated parents are maintaining connection with their children during their incarceration, that they're getting the family time that they're entitled to have. So finally, implementing evidence-based practice initiatives to help mitigate barriers across systems that may get in the way of timely reunification. Many of these you're already familiar with. Families First Initiative, differential response, the safety organized practice, which is the practice strategies utilized by caseworkers in child welfare, trauma-informed care, and some new and existing new projects and coming projects are Safe Babies Court, Trauma-Informed Court, Plans of Safe Care, which targets and supports the treatment needs of substance-exposed newborns and their families. During the month of June 2024, we want to celebrate the love and commitment that parents have for their children and all of the hard work that they do to overcome the adversity in their lives. We want to acknowledge the efforts made by family members, care providers, volunteers, human service agencies, schools, medical and behavioral health providers, advocates, and our judicial systems for all their efforts in helping families to make reunification a reality. Later this month, the first time ever, at an event hosted by one of our local businesses, Fly High, we will be celebrating with some of our families their efforts in reunifying for 2023. So this time I'd like to just present the proclamation.
Wonderful. So I'll have Commissioner Shattuck McNally read the proclamation and make the motion. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. Be very happy to read this proclamation. Family Reunification Month. Whereas Larimer County believes that all children and youth deserve to be safe. Children do best when raised in families, and all children and youth deserve and need a permanent family. And whereas the family is the primary source of love, identity, and self-esteem and support for children and adults, and provides the foundation of our communities. And whereas the bond between child, parents, and family members provides the nurturing and security that is critical for personal growth and development. And whereas parents can encounter problems that require attention and need assistance to ensure the safety and caring support of their children and their family. And whereas because of this important bond, reunification with parents and family is the best option and optimal outcome for children removed from their homes and placed in foster care. And whereas addressing the safety concerns that brought the family to the attention of child welfare, assessing family strengths and needs, and bringing together the family, natural supports, caregivers, legal, and community providers are all strategies that can positively impact reunification and support long-term stability. Whereas reunification services should be trauma-informed, strengths-based, and culturally responsive and accessible to parents. And whereas improving efforts to address racial disproportionality and disparity in child welfare is paramount to increase success rates with reunification. And whereas each year parents work through the court process to improve and grow, and hundreds of children are successfully reunified with their parents and families, and whereas foster and kinship care is intended to be a temporary intervention for children who need the safety and security of an out-of-home placement. And whereas celebrating Family Reunification Day is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate families who have overcome adversity, healed from trauma, and successfully reunified with their children. And whereas celebrating Reunification Day is an opportunity to recognize, celebrate those individuals or agencies that support families in achieving reunification, and whereas instilling hope for those families who are currently going through the process and encouraging others to support them is key to their success. Therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, proclaim June 2024 to be Family Reunification Month. Madam Chair, Pro Tem, I move to approve the proclamation of proclaiming June 2024 as Family Reunification Month.
Thank you, Commissioner. And would you like to make any comments before we vote on this item?
Certainly I would. Thank you. Thank you for your statement. Just so important for us to say that publicly and talk about the importance of this work and the importance of the success of this work and how important it is to have this foundation for kids to have this stable foundation going forward. It is so critical for the youth to heal from the trauma and have trauma-informed care and have those supports and be able to be in kinship care and have these opportunities, families, parents, children, to have that really basic need of family love and acceptance and that security of a loving home. And I think we strive because we know the data says that, but we also know in our hearts and minds that this is the right thing to try to bring families together whenever possible. We know that you work so hard to make sure children are safe, so if they're not safe, you find great homes for them. And I was thinking as you were talking about all of the data and things that you all do, and the folks in the room, you are all my heroes because you guys do this work every day. It is heartbreaking, hard work, but you all work so hard for the benefit of these children and families. We have Kinship Care Month, we have Foster Care Recognition, we have Child Abuse Prevention Month, we have all these things that you bring forward, and it's really important, and I appreciate that you do that because we keep reminding ourselves how critical this work is for the county and for all of our communities and all the agencies we partner with. It is some of the most important, and Commissioner Stevens says this a lot as well, some of the most important work we do as a county. This is foundational for this success and thriving communities that we all strive for, to have these youth and these families have a positive trajectory towards what we all want is loving, stable, healthy, happy homes for all. And those homes might not look like everyone else's homes, but they're still all loving, happy, hopefully loving, safe homes. Mm-hmm. And they all look a little different, but they all have that basis of family. And we want that for everyone and everyone in this community. And I really love it, part of this proclamation, that whereas reunification services should be trauma-informed, because we need to stop the generational cycle of trauma and generational poverty and all this. And this is so key to all of this. And it's strengths-based and culturally responsive and accessible to parents. I love that part of the proclamation because that is so critical for our wonderful, diverse, inclusive, beautiful, belonging community to have those kinds of things threaded and embedded into all the work that we do. And I just want to commend you all for keep bringing these forward and talking about this publicly. It reduces stigma, it reduces misinformation, and helps us understand why this work's so important. And also just gives us a chance to say one more time, you guys do great work. My heartfelt gratitude and thank you.
I'm grateful for the work you do too, Angela. I really appreciate that this morning you explained, how you go about this work. That you're very intentional about making sure that many kids don't ever get removed from the home. That some do, and we look for kinship. That the ultimate goal is reunification, when possible. Because I think it's really important for people to understand. I mean, I think that they think that there's an incident or a call and children just get removed right away, right? And a lot of this, as you explained, is is people not necessarily having resources, right? So neglect kind of situations could be for a number of reasons, from everything from I can't find childcare that day, so I left kiddos with, too young of another child, or there's a lot of circumstances that people go through that are because of poverty or mental health issues, where if you can build resources around those families, these kiddos can go back to their families. And so I think, keeping in mind for the public that is the ultimate goal, and that there were a lot of stories of this happening very successfully in our community. And that's really a testament to you, your leadership, and then the people who are here, the caseworkers and other folks that support those families. That's what we need to do, is figure out how to support these families, because most families can take these children back and do quite well. And so I just really appreciate that that's always the end goal, that we're always really trying to keep families whole whenever possible. And the supports you put in place for those people to be able to do that's amazing work. And I think highlighting the partnerships that also help us do that work is really great, because we don't do this work in a vacuum. We rely on partners. We rely on the legal partners and Foothills Gateway and various nonprofits that really help put things in place to keep families do healthy and doing a good job. And so remarkable work. We're really happy. You and your team do so much, and so this is just a really great example of how we're really working against maybe what people think we're trying to do. Is there is a lot of sensationalism around issues of taking away children, and that just isn't the case in most cases. And then not only are they not taken away in the numbers that maybe people think they are, but the kinship placement is so important too. Is most like their immediate family as we can possibly get for these kids. So great work. We're happy to celebrate with you with this proclamation, and we will just take the vote, and then we'll take a photo if everyone is okay with that. So so we have a motion on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 2-0, and we will pause for a moment to take a photo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, we are back, and we have two more agenda items today. We have the county manager update, so I'll turn that over to our county manager, Lorenda Volker.
This one is going to be very short, Commissioners. I think most everyone seemed to be out of town last week, both inside this organization and out in the community. And so I'm going to pass this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we know you are doing tons of work, and so we appreciate all you do. Thank you. So we'll move to Commissioner Activity Reports, and Commissioner Shattuck McNally will let you start.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. And I'll try to be brief. We're busy, but it's a lot of emails and constituent calls, and but there are some things we've been out and about in the community a lot. I did have a rodeo board meeting last week, and they're working very hard and they're ahead of schedule, doing some wonderful things together to work on the final details of the rodeo and things. And so I really appreciate all the work they're doing. I don't know if I shared last week, I'm working with the Larimer County coroner, Stephen Hanks, and the VA and some others on a suicide fatality review board. And we're talking about the data, especially focusing on veterans. And it's been really powerful, interesting information to look at that. And I appreciate the work that we're doing together on that, and appreciate him inviting me to those meetings. It's been really interesting to bring all of us together on a topic that we care so deeply about. And then also, excuse me, we had I attended what we call the EPA had a PFAS, and don't ask me to say that acronym. I don't know. There's so many different PFAS. I sit on the National Association of Counties Environment, Energy, Land Use steering committee for the National Association of Counties, and they brought together kind of an EPA PFAS roundtable for local leaders. I think it is televised online. So much information, opportunities. Certainly, it's a concern around here. I know it's really a big concern more on the Midwest and East Coast, but too much information to share here. But it is on the NACO website and that information. And just we talk about this almost every month for the last several years. There's a lot of work to do, and it will be ongoing work for everyone in local government across the whole country to look for PFAS and all these systems and what we need to do to mitigate that because of the health concerns. And then we had our regional opioid abatement learning forum, which is a monthly opportunity to learn from other counties about the work they're doing. And basically what they do in this meeting is we talk about some of these details and some of the information. We're still learning, the Colorado, we do things a little different than around the country, because we've broken into regions so that the regions kind of decide how they want to spend that money, boots on the ground, and find what's best options. But then we're also looking at making sure how we report that out and show our progress, and have these 4 buckets and how the grants are addressing those. And so those were a lot of the conversations, because there's still a lot of counties that are still trying to figure out how to get that money out the door. And we have done a really good job getting it out the door in Larimer County. And we're getting ready for our state opioid abatement conference in September that will be here in Larimer County out at the Ranch and Embassy Suites. So really great opportunity to learn and do more work. And I appreciate the work that the Attorney General, Phil Weiser, and his team, Jamie Feld, and them are all doing in this space, because fentanyl is an opiate addiction and substance abuse disorder is very deadly for our communities. And we have a lot of work to help address those that are impacted by that. And then I had went down to, we had a wildfire committee planning meeting. We met with Senator Cutter and Fire Chief Moore with the Colorado State Division of Fire Protection and Control, other commissioners, and we are still talking and planning for kind of the Forest Health Council recommendations, and also just some of us working across the state as commissioners on wildfire and other related matters. And we just had a discussion about the Wildfire Interim Committee and the kind of what that agenda and some of those discussions that will look like coming up here in August, because they're already starting. Even though the legislative session just ended, they're already starting on bills and activities already for next year. And then I did go down to talk with, it's called New Era Colorado. I went down to Denver. There were some Larimer County youth that graduated from CSU, but they're really about democracy and getting youth engaged in democracy and understanding the importance of how to vote. And so I went down to City Park in Denver and it was a lot of fun to talk with some of those youth that live here and drove down there, and they're very involved and really just want to make sure their voices and that there's more youth and younger voices in boards and commissions and voting and just engagement. And so I found their energy really infectious, and I appreciate the work that they do. So I had that invitation to go down, and it was a lot of fun. Friday I just spent a lot of time trying to catch up. It was amazing how many emails and folks wanting to talk and rolling up with that. I had a legislative town hall with State Senator Marchman Saturday morning at the library in Loveland, and it went overtime, big time, well, almost double time. We had a lot of folks there. It was a very large group, and of course, all the topics from. We talked about all the bills we've done, and I talked about some of our legislative agenda accomplishments. Senator Marchman talked a lot about her bills. I think she was on 38 different bills, and so that's a lot. And then I shared that we were kind of supporting over 55 bills. Not all of them made it across the finish line, but we're very involved legislatively. And I think a lot of folks in the room were really surprised to see how much we are involved that way. And of course, property tax came up, and the rail and transportation and housing, all those topics. And it was really great questions, very engaged audience. And I appreciate everyone that was in attendance. And so that was great. I actually got out and did some hiking on Saturday, and it was great to talk with folks. I actually ran into a lot of constituents on the trail, had a lot of questions, and it's just interesting to meet folks out where they're at and hiking and out in the public. And I just wanted to mention that because I think they were surprised. It's just nice that we're out and about, and they're just so excited they can actually talk to one of their local elected officials and ask them questions, and that we're willing to stop and talk with them and answer their questions no matter where we're at. And so I just want to encourage everyone that we work for you, and just if you see us out, just ask us questions. Unless I'm at dinner eating with my family, but there's other, because that's happened. But I really appreciate people asking such really wonderful informed questions, and the dialogue is really exciting. And then we had our leveraging I met with this fire chief. We're getting ready to introduce the interns with the grant money we came from American Rescue Plan dollars to promote this. The Loveland Fire Rescue Authority has that pilot program where they're paying for internship for them to be able to have housing inside the firehouse for Loveland Fire Rescue Authority and do this mitigation work that is actually very focused on the LFRA wildfire risk area that is kind of, the southern part of the county, but it's going to be a win-win for everyone. And it's a partnership with Front Range and CSU and the State Forest Service and us and the Fire Rescue Authority. And it's just going to be really neat to see. We're going to see them make those interns. They live around here and going to be able to have develop this workforce because we need more boots on the ground to deal with this wildfire risk. And so I wanted to share that. And then we had our Forest Health Council Leveraging Resources Committee meeting. And the reason I share that is they're starting to talk about watersheds and really try to make that strong connection between forest health and watersheds. And I was talking about our water master plan. And so it'll be interesting how that committee is kind of starting to look at how we can leverage resources between watersheds and forest health, which is something that I've been talking about, as you all know, for years. And I think it's going to be a really important kind of conversation. We're going to start going out and talking to the round tables, around the water basins and the round tables, and seeing how we can work together across the state. And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll try to be brief. Last week, between Wednesday and Thursday, I had 6 transportation meetings. Spent a lot of time talking about transportation, really important in our communities and linking our region. The first meeting on Wednesday was the National Association of Counties Transportation meeting. I'm going to be working with some of the NACO staff on how we can lobby Congress for more direct funding to counties. So a lot of dollars go directly to the state. We know that counties are responsible for, roughly 40% of all the roads in the United States, and yet a lot of the funding goes to the state DOT. And we know that a lot will still go to the state Department of Transportations, but would like additional dollars to be able to come directly to counties so we can address some of the issues that we have. So we're going to work on some language around that. We met with the North I-25 Coalition on Wednesday night. We discussed Segment 5, which is the bottleneck between Berthoud and Meade. That project is underway now, so you will see a cone zone and some shoulders that are restricted, and some, just, I would just say be careful as you're going down to Denver, and be aware that there'll be some rerouting and some issues as we work on Segment 5, which will likely take about 4 years to complete. Maybe they'll get done sooner, but there are 8 bridges in that section to be replaced, and that does take a lot of work. On Thursday, we had the Upper Front Range Transportation Region meeting, and we talked about upcoming MMOF funding, that's Multimodal Options Fund funding. So that, think of funding for things other than roads. The Upper Front Range gets about $300,000 a year, which is not really enough to make a viable project. So we're thinking of combining those dollars for someone to have a project, more like $1 million bucket for a project, which is pretty reasonable. We also talked about safe streets for all. Really good news that a lot of communities across the Front Range are applying for those dollars, and so those dollars make us all eligible to work on safety projects in our communities. So, it's heartening to see that people are taking advantage, and those are dollars that can come directly to counties. We don't have to go through our state Department of Transportation. So, they're very useful dollars in creating more safety plans in our communities. We had the Go NoCo 34. A meeting. Go NoCo 34 is the new Transportation Management Organization, or TMO, that we're creating. We're looking for an executive director for that group that will create more commuting options on Highway 34. There's no transit on 34. There's not a lot of safe pedestrian routes on 34. Not a lot of multimodal options, and yet it's a very highly trafficked corridor. So we're really looking for solutions for that corridor. This TMO will help us with that. We had the US 34 Coalition meeting, which is, we talked about projects around that. I mean, there is definitely linkage between the TMO and the 34 Coalition, but the 34 Coalition will look at other needs on that roadway, including some opportunities for the train to be rerouted, or to have, so that there's not tie-ups. If you've driven down 34, there are a lot of stoplights. There are a lot of things that don't make traffic flow, and so really helping with traffic flow on that corridor. Then on the North Front Range MPO, the final of the 6 meetings, we did get an update on passenger rail. There won't be a tax that's proposed for passenger rail this time around, because there are other funding mechanisms that were created through the legislature this spring. So they expect a tax to come in a couple of years, though. The tax will be largely for operations for the train. The dollars that were identified in this legislative session, which would be fees on car rentals, those dollars will be used to leverage the federal dollars that we need to build out the system, and then the taxing dollars will help also with that, but also will help with operational costs. My understanding, the goal is to get passenger rail in place by 2029. Well, hopefully we will achieve that goal. And then there will be a new executive director for the North Front Range MPO. That's Paul Sizemore from the city of Fort Collins. So we're excited to welcome him, and sad to see Suzette Millette go, who has been a fixture in regional transportation in our communities for decades, and will be missed. And then finally, on Friday, I attended the ICS 402 training in Estes Park. ICS is Incident Command System. So in every emergency, there is a system so that that's in place. It's this system that allows every emergency to sort of be dealt with and have the same leadership functions, so that people who come in from other jurisdictions or other governmental entities know immediately how to plug into this command system, so that emergencies can be run in a very thoughtful and precise way. And so we really learned about how that works on the ground and what some of the challenges are and what we need to have in place to make sure that that happens in our community. We have had that. We have a great emergency manager, Lori Hodges, who led that training, but is an expert. And she also has a position that she can plug in other communities when she does mutual aid. And so really great to learn about emergency management before we go to Emmitsburg in August to discuss emergency management. So that is all for me. And I think that's all for all of us, honestly. So we have no other business for this board. And so at 10:24, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.